The session was expected to screen the remaining ministerial nominees. When it was time to screen Nigeria's former Minister of State for Labour and Productivity, all hell broke loose as a member of parliament moved the motion, calling on the former minister to give explanations on how funds released during his time as minister were spent for public good.
Today, we need to find out, Mr. Senate President. Nobody is stopping him from being cleared. No. And I'm happy the way the president has sent so many people, great people here. We have questioned them, passed through the screening, wonderful people, and we're ready. As much as they are ready to work with the system, we are ready to clear them. But not on the grounds of putting something under the table, not granting some people fair hearing, because I would like us to grant him fair hearing since he has been running away from it, for people, for Nigerians to know what really happened. Because I wouldn't like any person to be holding that, because this thing has been subject of debate here and there.
He says the questions being asked were fundamental.
What happened? But he is here, and it's our responsibility to find out. So, Mr. President of the Senate, I'm of the opinion so strongly that he has to tell us what really happened, but not here. We have to keep it down a little bit. We're not saying that we're not going to clear him. We would not like what happened at the last administration, where some people felt that the president was in charge, and so many other things were happening out there. We won't take it this time around.
I do support that this nominee should be stepped down pending when he decides that the National Assembly has that right to inquire into the workings of a minister and his ministry.
This divided the Senate as lawmakers took sides for and against the motion, causing a rowdy scene within the Senate chambers. President of the Senate, in a bid to resolve the ongoing impasse, dissolved the Senate into an executive session.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate do resolve into a closed session to iron out some issues of national concern. Those who are in support of this closed session as moved say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate will now revert to a closed session. The press will leave us, and the nominee will leave us for a while we discuss.
After the session, the nominee tendered his apologies to lawmakers and was subsequently asked to take a bow.
Let me start with an unreserved apology. My apology is without reservation. It's total apology for the misunderstanding that arose between us in my committee at that time at the Ninth Assembly. I apologize without reservation. Total apology.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion is on the floor that in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly, that he be allowed to take leave of the Senate. Those who are in favor of this motion say aye. Aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it.
Amadine Uyi, reporting for News Central.
Alhaji Lateef Kayode Jakonde, who passed away recently, was a respected journalist, politician, and former governor of Lagos State. He held the position of governor from 1979 to 1983 during the Second Republic. Jakonde began his career in the 1950s as a journalist, working for various newspapers, including the Nigerian Tribune.
Lateef Jakonde was instrumental to the establishment of the Nigerian Institute of Journalism, which has over the years churned out renowned journalists. And he was also pioneer president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. And to honor him, the editors organized an annual memorial lecture.
The NIJ that I'm privileged to supervise now is the NIJ that is forever grateful for the founding ideas of Alhaji Jakonde, for the training and the examples they left to all of us.
He will criticize a bad policy. At the same time, he will also prefer remedies to correct these lapses.
Critics argue that today's journalists lack the same level of dedication and determination exhibited by Jakonde, thereby failing to hold politicians accountable to the standards of service expected of them.
The circumstances in which we report and distribute and obtain the news have changed dramatically. It is therefore our constitutional duty to reposition and revitalize the media, just as Baba Kekere and his colleagues did to meet the challenges of their time.
We keep praying and wishing for a new Nigeria. And we have to reflect. When we reflect on Alhaji Jakonde's performance and his life, his trajectory, I think our prayer point should be, let's go back to the old Nigeria. The old Nigeria, because that is where everything works.
And please, whatever you do, remember this great man called Jakonde and follow his path. He lit the light to our feet, and we had not gone wrong ever since.
The administration and good people of Lagos State will forever remember Alhaji Lateef Jakonde and his good deeds to Lagosians.
As a journalist, they say Jakonde embodied the ideals of truth, objectivity, and public service. These yearly lectures serves as a reminder of the crucial role journalism plays in the society as a watchdog and advocate for the people. Moving forward, journalists must reaffirm their commitment to the principles Jakonde embodied, such as truth, integrity, and public service. Ni Omani, reporting for NewsCentral Lagos. brighten up your morning with the latest news from the African continent.
Good morning, Africa. Welcome to Breakfast Central.
Weekday mornings from 7 a.m. West African time. Breakfast Central brings you the latest news, interviews, business, politics, entertainment, and sports.
Broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria, this is Breakfast Central.
Part of a meeting in Rotterdam, Holland.
Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time on News Central, Africa First.
It is midnight in Eastern Africa and 11 p.m. in Southern Africa. In Nigeria, it is 10 p.m. Our top stories tonight. Nigeria ECOWAS sued over planned military intervention in Niger. National Security Advisor says security of schools will get special attention over mass kidnapping. Parliament condemns abuse of waivers prior to recruitment exercises by government ministries, departments, and agencies. Thank you for joining us in Nigeria tonight. I'm Felicity Ezewike. Our coverage begins in Abuja, where the ECOWAS Community Court has been urged to restrain members of the community from engaging in any military invasion or any military action in the Republic of Niger that might undermine the Republic of Niger's sovereignty and territorial integrity. This forms part of the reliefs being sought in a suit filed before the court against ECOWAS, the authority of heads of state and government, President, ECOWAS Commission, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Republic of Niger. The suit was filed by the Incorporated Trustees of Egalitarian Mission for Africa, an international relations expert, Professor Bola Akinteriwa, and a lawyer who claimed to have family members in both Nigeria and Niger, Hamza Dantani, through their lawyer Olukayode Ajulo. In the meantime, the 14th Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, on Wednesday met with the Niger Republic school leader, General Abdurrahmane Chiani. The meeting, which reportedly focused on the way out of the quagmire in Nigeria's neighboring country, was held in Niamey. ECOWAS leaders are scheduled to meet on Thursday after the 7-day ultimatum issued the coup plotters to return the country back to civil rule failed on Sunday. Away from Niger coup, the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu says the administration of President Bola Tinubu will give special attention to the safety and security of students and schools in the country. Ribadu stated this on Wednesday in Abuja at the Strategic Forum on Achieving Safer Schools organized by the Nigerian police. The program was themed Imperative for a Safer Teaching and Learning Environment for the Future of Nigeria's National Development, the Need for National Collective Action. It was aimed at strengthening synergy among security agencies towards tackling a myriad of challenges, security challenges, including mass kidnapping in schools within the country. Ribadu, who was represented at the event by Major General A.M. Diko, retired, said the invasion of schools by bandits and other armed men has impacted on school enrollment in the country, especially in the northern region. Let's now tell you that Nigeria's parliament has condemned the abuse of waivers prior to recruitment exercises by government ministries, departments, and agencies. This was during an investigative hearing by the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee investigating job racketeering by government agencies in the nation's capital, Abuja, where lawmakers say waivers are being used to perpetrate fraud and deprive citizens an opportunity to get employment into the agencies. The House Ad Hoc Committee interrogated representatives from Nigeria's Energy Commission, condemning past recruitment exercises carried out by the Commission, which did not give job seekers an opportunity to compete for available slots.
The continuation of an investigative hearing over allegations of employment racketeering in public agencies. Lawmakers accuse several agencies of carrying out recruitment exercises of job seekers. They say Nigeria some agencies shutting out during recruitment exercises. Appeared before the committee. The chairman of the committee practice of obtaining waivers make the exercise not which affects the public sector.
Now, public service in federal character in recruitment is for
the committee's commitment to an end to racketeering with public sector to put an end to practice.
All right. We have a guest this conversation, and that was joining us now to share on the drama as has been described and with the committee. Thank you for giving us your time. Seekers. Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
You know, the day you have individuals to explore connections towards juicy organizations. There are some individuals taking advantage of taking advantage of ordinary Nigerians. The amount of money for employment. Now, the national taking out the advice for taking advantages to engage in individuals who are taking this responsibility of agency and the national times why people carry and of course unravels all this that we
Information system, the and the Nigeria, all the units government to refuse to approve the employment process within agencies are said to be sensed that the office and asset management. These sensitive. I'm asking that should make them to refuse for inquiries into employment processes with them.
There are laid down procedures for procurement, and I believe to come in place to ensure that the right thing. But there is actually nothing wrong with
Representatives bent on of the long. How confident this will come if it's not a distraction? Remember, it had resolved into March.
I'm hoping that this investigation, I hope the House actually stays true its and see to the end of this racketeering. We've been having this, you know, if you recall some few years back, procurement, Nigerians love. I think first understand something itself. Procurement, for the teaming of Nigerians for this position, routine, and then you end up having about 50,000 by Nigerians buying for this position. There must be some area in our nature. We think that at the end of our racketeering must have been in place. However, that those they don't have.
Ask to recommend optimism that you share and share. Do you see what happens nowadays? That optimistic questions now that punishments are being meted out. Very much for sharing your.
Thank you very
much. To the National Assembly, but meanwhile, one of Nigeria's presidents appreciating for its various interventions in West African in areas of humanitarian conflict areas, mutual relationships by the two countries looks toward more rewarding partnership. The First Lady emphasized that Nigeria needs a lot of help to cushion the subsidy removal, especially and Nigerians in general. Highlighted some of the areas of intervention by her country in Nigeria. The former state sources in Nigeria has thrown his weight behind the removal of petrol subsidy by the current administration. Timothy Silva, while speaking to newsmen after a visit with President Bola Tinubu, says that the feat had been an impossible task by previous governments, especially as it has been established that the regime was stalling Nigeria's development. Catholic bishops of Owerri Ecclesiastical Province have called for an end to the sit-at-home order instituted by the separatist group IPOB They also appealed for normalcy to return to economic activities in the southeast geopolitical zone. The bishops made this call in a communique issued at the end of its two-day meeting at the Mater Dei Cathedral in Umuahia. NewsCentral's correspondent Chinwe Ugele tells us more.
At the end of the two-day meeting in Umuahia, the bishops wrapped it up with a high mass at the Mater Dei Cathedral, wherein some Catholic faithful joined in. The communique was signed by the chairman and secretary of the body, Archbishop Lucius Ugoji, who is also the Metropolitan See of Owerri Province, and Most Reverend Augustine Echema of Aba Diocese, respectively, and read by Most Reverend Michael Carlo Opong, Bishop of Umuahia Diocese. As an annual gathering, the spiritual leaders of the Catholic faith took time to evaluate and make assessments of the different sectors of the Nigerian system as they affect especially the Southeast region.
Regrettably, in the midst of these hard economic realities, Nigerians have seen their freedom to move about and hustle for their daily needs hampered by a rising insecurity that has led to scores of deaths of innocent citizens.
Part of the 6-point resolutions are condemnation of the trending neo-paganism among young people in the zone in search of instant wealth and constant attack of Christianity by some intellectuals, worsening insecurity and aftermath of the 2023 general elections.
As your spiritual leaders, we still call upon all the good-willed and patriotic citizens of Nigeria to continue to work for the common good of all Nigerians on that same note of equity, justice, and peace.
The bishops were, however, optimistic that collective resolve of the citizens to do right at all times will birth a better Nigeria.
We must raise our heads above our own ego, above the narrow confines of our tribal or religious affiliations, and free our hearts to feel for others and to pursue God's justice in our country.
Chinwe Ugele, reporting for News Central.
You're watching Nigeria Tonight on News Central. Coming up, students call on President Tinubu to intervene with delay in confirmation of ministerial nominee from Delta State, Stella Okotete. We have the details after the break. Please stay with us.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every raise, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
NewsCentral TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the NewsCentral TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on NewsCentral's social media platforms. NewsCentral, Africa First.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here at NewsCentral TV, the stories that put Africa first.
Hey lovers, my name is Sharon Ojai-Grube.
Hi guys, my name is Femi Adebayo.
My name is Anado Digexia Bojo.
Steve Chicks, I'm an actor.
Uche Montana.
Popularly known as Neo Energy. My name is Neo Mubak Bafre. Uzo Arope, and you're hanging out with News Central.
Keep watching.
Keep watching. Keep watching.
News Central TV. News Central TV.
News Central TV. News Central TV. Did you hear me? And if I'm
Wake up to a lot of stories about Africa.
But this is where you get the story straight.
Where we explore different angles because we understand our stories.
There's that passion when it's your perspective and not a distant perception.
I know you hear it a lot, but it's true. Nobody can tell your story better than you.
That's what we do.
All day, every day
on NewsCentral TV.
Are African stories by Africans for Africans.
If you have just joined us, you're watching Nigeria Tonight. A reminder of our top stories. Nigeria, ECOWAS sued over planned military intervention in Niger. National Security Advisor says security of schools will get special attention over mass kidnapping. Parliament condemns abuse of waivers prior to recruitment exercises by government ministries, departments and agencies. Later in the bulletin, Ikechukwu Amechi, editor The Niche, will join us to peep into what the papers may be saying tomorrow. A group of students under the umbrella of Nigeria Student Solidarity Movement, NSSM, has called on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to intervene with regards to the intrigue that has led to the delay in the confirmation of the ministerial nominee from Delta State, Stella Okotete. Director General of NSSM, Comrade Riboru Deniro, appealed to the president to intervene in ensuring Okotete's immediate confirmation by the Senate. Deniro, while appealing to Mr. President for intervention, also commended him for his numerous student policies, which have renewed the hope of Nigerian students. We're now joined by the senator representing Edo South Senatorial District, Neda Imaswe. Thank you very much for giving us your time on Nigeria Tonight. Let's begin with what many Nigerians are already talking about, and that is the purpose of bringing ministerial nominees before the Senate when they will not have the opportunity of responding to burning issues. This has been a repeated situation. Why should this take a bow practice continue?
Well, good evening and thanks for having me. I believe there's a lot of misconception about this issue of take a bow and leave. First of all, every senator, when he gets up from his seat, either to leave to use the men's room or ladies' room, or to speak with another senator, gets up and take a bow as a way of obedience to this Senate leadership. It's a way of respect, and that's the tradition before he even leaves. And when he comes back, he does the same thing. Take a bow, it's a way of showing respect to the Senate. But misconception came about when an individual has been screened or has been interviewed, and then we say take a bow and leave, and it's as if the person was not even interviewed or spoken to. That is not true.
But sir, if you say that is not true, sorry, I need a clarification. These nominees are sent in without portfolios primarily, and then people are saying maybe because they don't have a portfolio to be interrogated on, that is why the practice of take a bow and leave continues. It might be the norm in the National Assembly, but to Nigerians looking on, it seems like the practice continues unabated when there are other options that could be explored. Hello, Senator, can you hear me? Senator Imaswe, if you can hear me, can you confirm?
Well, I didn't hear all of it. There was a glitch in the transmission when you were talking, but I think I have an idea of what you're saying. Now, those who take a bow, most of them or all of them are former senators, those that have served as senators or those that have served as members of the House of Representatives. We do that because it's a mark of an acknowledgement of the achievement of these individuals. One, two, that they have gone through a lot of screening to become senators or House of Rep. And so screening them, unless there's something very unusual, may have occurred in their lives since becoming a senator or House of Rep member. There isn't really no need to screen them beyond what we know of them. So when we tell such individuals to take a bow and leave, we don't even just do that willy-nilly. We do it, haven't had them introduce themselves and tell us what they have done.
So you're basically saying that the screening exercise that is televised for every Nigerian is primarily for the benefit of, you know, formality. It's not, you've done the real work behind the scene, the televised interviews.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm specifically talking about the senators that senator nominees or House of Rep members nominees.
But these are not the only people that, sorry to keep interrupting, but these are not the only people that are asked to take a bow and leave.
That's the point. So those other persons that would say take a bow and leave would have been great, would have spoken to them, every one of them.
All right, let's move on and see if we can cover other areas. There are petitions.
Take a leave of Senate so that there would not be an ambiguity as to who would tell to take a bow.
Okay, Senator, I don't want to lose you. The network seems a bit poor, so I'll just go ahead and ask you all the questions so we can cover a lot more. There are petitions against several nominees, yet they were confirmed by the Senate. Is it a lack of due diligence by the lawmakers, or like you have been saying, you've done your search and you've made your confirmation before they came up?
Well, I understand that, but you must also understand the limitations of the National Assembly, the Senate that has the responsibility to screen. Now, we do not have the benefit, or we do not have the DSS, for instance, or the EFCC, or such other organizations that have the tools, that have what it takes to screen these individuals. We don't have that. The person that has them is the president who nominates these individuals. And the expectation is that the president would have subjected them through this screening. And if they have gone through this screening and it comes back clean, we don't really have anything beyond that other than to go by their CV.
Yeah, but if that is the case, why did the Senate not confirm 3 persons out of the list that was sent in? We had a story about the lady from Delta State. We also have El Rufai, I believe.
That's correct. Now, there's also a misunderstanding or misconception of what happened there. The Senate did not refuse to screen them. What happened was that before we called them on, we got a security report, which is the way of the president. We got those security reports on these 3 individuals to say that they have questions to answer with the security agencies. And because of that, we had to step them down. So it goes back to the president to do what he has to do. But if they had to come back to us again, as senators, we would like to know what that security report is all about.
All right. You won the election into the Senate on the platform of the Labour Party. What difference are you bringing to the National Assembly? This question is important because while the campaign lasted, the Labour Party was presented as that party that is different from the rest.
You are very correct. We are the People's Party, I must say that. What it means is that what our agenda is about the people in every material respect, whether we're talking about employment, youth restiveness, youth unemployment, whether we're talking about women issues, we are there. That is the issue that concerns us. The issue of lack of educational opportunities or lack of ability, affordability of education, affordability of healthcare. These are the issues that concerns us as Labour Party. And these are the issues that we will also take up.
All right, Senator, before I let you go, my director is prodding me. I'd like to find out from you how much you got for the holiday. The president of the Senate, we saw him on live television saying that you gentlemen received some sort of, mail, so to speak.
But that isn't the whole story. What else did he say?
You go ahead and tell us, but that's the part that caught everybody's attention, so we wanted to find out quickly.
The part of it when he said that he was going to send prayers to our mailboxes so that we can get home safely. You didn't hear that? But in any case, but let me answer you directly. I have not gotten anything in my account, so I don't know what they are sending or if they are going to send.
Oh, okay.
But I also like to say this. The president of the Senate, His Excellency Akpabio, is such, how will I say, he makes the Senate very lively. He's a funny man. It's funny in a very serious way. And so he said things when there's going to be, a huge disagreement on the floor. He makes everybody laugh. He calms down the situation, and so everybody gets along. And so I'm personally going to tell him, your distinguished senator, president, please, a lot of people might misunderstand your jokes to be something very serious.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was going to take you on.
The other time, let me make this point, please. The other time on the floor, he said about the poor persons breathe. And people misunderstood it as if he was making jest of them. But
isn't that an imperative for him to exercise caution, knowing that he is one of the toppest figures in this country? So whatever he says, even in jest, might be misconstrued. So the fact that there's a possibility of being misconstrued, shouldn't that help to set some sort of restraint? This is the second time.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree with you. Which is why I said some of us will actually have to tell them, we understand your jokes, but people outside these chambers do not understand these jokes. They take it as if you mean seriously what you're saying.
All right, Senator, I really wanted to continue, but we're out of time. So I'll just say thank you very much for giving us your time on Nigeria Tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
You too. Let's move on now. The governor, Caleb Mufwang of Plateau State, North Central Nigeria, has urged the new cabinet members of his administration to collaborate in uplifting the state to a greater height. The governor gave the charge when he held his first State Executive Council meeting at the Government House in Jos. NewsCentral's Chizoba Anyowe completes the report.
This inaugural meeting had in attendance all the newly sworn-in commissioners. Others were the Chief of Staff to the Governor, Head of Service and Secretary to the State Government, except the Deputy Governor, Josephine Pio, who was out of the state for an official assignment. Briefing newsmen immediately after the maiden meeting, the Commissioner for Information and Communication said they have been urged to bring their wealth of experience on board for a greater plateau.
We've been given the modus operandi, which of course is spined on the development of Plateau State. We are coming in a time where Plateau is in dire need of development, where our state is crying for growth, and of course the governor has paraded us to be his lieutenants in carrying out this mandate. We were not elected, but we ride on the privileges that his election has brought. Basically, that is why we're here. So today is our maiden meeting, and we've been charged to be great citizens of Plateau State, to carry the name of Plateau State to higher positions, to pole positions. We're going back to get status of all the ministries, so that when we come back, we're coming fully informed, adequately informed, so that we start dispensing our duties as honorable commissioners. You know, we are holding forth for the governor in these ministries. So basically, we're going back as people that have been charged, and we have an idea of what the governor wants, which is spined on the growth and development of Plateau State, nothing more, nothing less.
Major issues facing the team include insecurity in some parts of the state, improved agricultural practices, education, and poverty alleviation, among others. The State Executive Council meeting will hold every Wednesday to discuss matters affecting the government as well as the people of Plateau State. Chizoba Anyowe, reporting for NewsCentral.
Many thanks, Chizoba. Nigeria's premier university, the University of Ibadan in the western part of the country, and the government of Borno State, northeastern Nigeria, have taken a significant step towards strengthening their partnership for the development of the tertiary education in the country. These were part of deliberations during a visit by the management team of the university to honor Borno State Governor as its ambassador for the forthcoming 75th anniversary of the institution. NewsCentral's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
The educational sector in Borno State has been experiencing setbacks in recent times. This is the pace of infrastructure and many schools in the hinterland communities in Borno State and the newly established state university. The killings of teachers during Boko Haram crisis is one among many problems the government is battling to address. The visit to the Government House Maiduguri by the management team of University of Ibadan, led by the Vice-Chancellor Professor Kayode Adebowale, is to strengthen ties and improve the education sector.
We shall continue to partner with you. We shall continue to collaborate with you with a view to repositioning our fragile educational sector. We need to work hard in order to reposition the education sector in Nigeria. We want to see how we can partner together
especially in the areas of staff development between the University of Maiduguri and State University and the University of Ibadan.
Professor Zulum emphasized the important role education plays in transforming societies and highlighted the need for collaboration between the University of Ibadan and the Borno State University, a thought the August visitor agreed with.
As part of our tradition of excellence, we have recommended the University of Ibadan at 75th Anniversary Committee has recommended and management has approved that Your Excellency be designated as a UI at 75 ambassador.
The decoration of Professor Babagana Zulum as ambassador of the University of Ibadan is to attract funds for key projects in the institution.
The first of the 5 projects is to have an endowment fund of 100 billion naira. The second one is infrastructure development, consisting of the building of smart classrooms, laboratories, and lecture areas.
Both the university and the state government share a common goal of advancing education, research, and development in Nigeria. Umaru Kirawa, reporting for NewsCentral TV, Maiduguri.
Benue State House of Assembly has announced a list of 17 commissioner nominees forwarded to the State House of Assembly for screening and confirmation. The state governor had initially sent a list of 14 nominees, but added 3 more nominees to his initial list. Speaker of the State House of Assembly, while informing the House during plenary, says that the new nominees now makes the total number expected for screening to be 17, including 24 special assistants expected to enhance service delivery in the state.
In our last sitting, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Benue State, sent a letter to us requesting that he will appoint 14 commissioners, and 14 names were sent to us. And today, he is asking for additional 3 commissioners, making it 17. So those of us in support of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Benue State, adding 3 commissioners to the 14th earlier sent to us, say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it.
All the nominees there have passed credibility tests. You have a way of investigating, you have a way of finding out about people. You can go out there, dig deep into their profile. All the nominees there are people of proven integrity. One thing about this government is that we are not going to do anything that would dent the image of the government.
You're watching Nigeria Tonight. Still to come. U.S. committed to continuously support the development of future Nigerian leaders. We'll tell you more about this after the break. Stay with us.
You wake up to a lot of stories about Africa.
But this is where you get the story straight.
Where we explore different angles because we understand our stories.
There's that passion when it's your perspective and not a distant perception.
I know you hear it a lot, but it's true. Nobody can tell your story better than you.
That's what we do.
All day, every day
on NewsCentral TV.
Our African stories by Africans for Africans.
Good to know you're still with us. The United States has committed to continuously support the development of future Nigerian leaders by offering the youth a platform to make tangible difference in their communities. As a result of this commitment, the Carrington Youth Fellowship Initiatives celebrated the graduation of its 2022-2023 cohort in Lagos, southwest Nigeria. Lee Omoni, who witnessed the colorful event, tells us more.
Over the past year, a group of exceptional Nigerian youth participating in the Carrington Youth Fellowship Initiative, SciFi, have dedicated themselves to collaborative projects within their respective communities in Lagos, Oyo, and Ogun State.
What we did was we worked and trained about 25 traditional birth attendants at Agbowaikosi community on modern midwifery skills, empowered them to become like champions of maternal health, to extend all those learnings about contraceptives and safe birthing methods to women of childbearing age.
She's a 38-year-old woman, Mrs. Salem Precious. So she was diagnosed of ectopic pregnancy, left ectopic pregnancy on the day of our free medical diagnosis. And she has been having that pain for 3 months, but because she couldn't afford 10,000 naira for abdominal scan, so she was stalling. But when she heard about our free medical diagnosis on that day, she came, and lucky for her, we diagnosed her of left ectopic pregnancy, and she fainted that same day.
If we had not intervened, guess me
The
what?
doctor said she would die in 24 hours.
Died.
The initiatives have been specifically aimed at driving positive change in various areas, including civic engagement, economic empowerment, education, healthcare delivery, and environmental conservation.
Sure. So the Carrington Youth Fellowship Program is an incredible program to celebrate both the legacy of Ambassador Walter Carrington, who was an U.S. ambassador to Nigeria. What we're doing is sharing and learning from one another, right? And when we have our diplomats working with these young civil society activists, they're working to solve some problems in local communities here in Nigeria. But as you teach those skills and gain those skills, you learn how to solve bigger problems that are facing all of Nigeria, all of Africa, and the whole world.
And we are so proud of what they have done, reaching over 2,000 direct beneficiaries, saving lives, placing people in jobs, equipping young people, educating pregnant women, how they would, have successful pregnancy, addressing maternal mortality.
The highlight of the graduation ceremony is the presentation of certificates to the graduates and the induction of 65 fellows into the 2023-2024 Sci-Fi initiative.
So recognizing that our community is one that is fraught with a lot of challenges, deciding to be a Sci-Fi fellow is very instructive. And that's also because it gives me an opportunity to learn personally, to build skills.
And we have various programs where we engage the youth of the state. So this is very similar to what we do, but we are always learning, and we can always learn from what we have seen today.
We see that this aligns with what Sci-Fi is doing, and we're so happy to be a part of Sci-Fi initiative.
As it is believed that African solutions can now effectively address global challenges, Sci-Fi continues to promote a culture of civic responsibility and social innovation to meet these needs. Ni Omoni, reporting for NewsCentral Lagos.
For a look at what the newspapers may be saying tomorrow, we are joined by Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi, editor The Niche. Good to see you again, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Always my pleasure. How are you today?
I'm doing okay, considering. All right, go ahead. What is your prediction for the rest of the week?
Well, I think there are a couple of running stories that, in my estimation, will still be there tomorrow. The crisis in Niger Republic, of course, today the former emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, went to see the military junta in Niger. I think that story should be there tomorrow. And the Nigerian Guild of Editors also issued a statement today where they were advising the Tinubu-led government and ECOWAS leaders not to launch a military attack on Niger Republic. I think there's a groundswell of public opinion now against any form of military intervention in a bid to resolve the political crisis in Niger Republic. So I think all these moves, both the visit of the former Emir of Kano and the Nigerian Guild of Editors advice and all that, they should make the newspapers tomorrow.
I think don't forget that they are being sued as well. They are being, ECOWAS is being sued by a group against the coup, the military intervention. I don't know if you're aware of that as well. That's another aspect. Yeah.
I am. A group sued ECOWAS today now to stop them from levying war on Niger Republic. like I said, it's a groundswell of public opinion against any form of military intervention in the Republic, and that will make a good story tomorrow, I guess. Then there is also this issue of the El-Rufai and his and the Senate refusal to confirm him as a minister. Of course, you know that out of the 48 people that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu submitted their names to the Senate, on Monday, Senate confirmed 45 of them, leaving out 3, and that included the Okotete, Stella Okotete of Delta, the Danladi, Senator Danladi, I think, and then Nasri El-Rufai. Nasri El-Rufai, there were security reports that are not too favorable. And today, Wike and Nasri El-Rufai went to see President Bola Tinubu.
Like you said, Mr. Mechi, it is... Yeah, I said, like you said, it is a developing story, one we should all keep an eye on. And I expect that there will be attention for the outcome, towards the outcome, rather, of the meeting of ECOWAS leaders slated for tomorrow. I will have to leave it there for now. Thank you very much, as always, for your kind insights.
You're welcome. Always my pleasure.
Let's go now to sports. Delta State government has confirmed readiness ahead of Africa Cup of Nations 2027 bid. Favor Itwa has more updates for us.
And in sport, we'll go straight to the world of basketball, where the organizers of the FIBA pre-Olympic qualifying tournament have released the schedule of games for the tournament that is set to hold in Lagos, Nigeria from the 14th to 20th of August 2023. A total of 8 African countries are set for the tournament. The teams have been divided into 2 groups of 4 each, with the top 2 teams in the group proceeding to the semifinals. The winner of the tournament qualifies for the Olympic qualifying tournament as African representative. According to the release schedule, host country Nigeria will take on another powerhouse, Senegal, in the opening game, while Mali will take on Uganda on the same day in Group A. Meanwhile, 15 players led by Chimezie Metu of the Sacramento Kings have been invited by the NBBF to camp, while coach Ogo Odaudu will lead the Nigerian Tigers at the tournament. Promises to be an exciting time ahead of the pre-Olympic qualifiers. We'll now go straight to more stories this time around the world of football, where Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevori has assured the Confederation of African Football (CAF) of the readiness of the Stephen Keshi Stadium to host the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. The governor stated this at the Government House after CAF inspected the 22,000 capacity stadium proposed for the 36th edition of the African Cup of Nations in 2027. The governor said that the state is ready to host Africa, as Asaba is renowned for hosting such sports events and assured of top-notch security and facilities for the event if selected. Earlier, the CAF team made up of Ralph Baumbega, Adam Blotmekowski, Sophie Bichi Chewu, Omar El Giati, Mensara Ilo, Ademola Alajire, and Tasiu Shehu inspected facilities at the Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba and made some recommendations to the management. Nigeria and Benin Republic have submitted a joint bid for the 2027 Cup of Nations, but will face strong competition from Algeria, Botswana, Egypt, and a joint candidacy from Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda for the tournament.
Delta State, like I've said, will be among the 6 states that will take for the hosting because it's peaceful, we have a very good environment, security here is 100% good, our airports are good, the roads are good, outside the highways, which is the federal roads, but everywhere here is, the terrain is good terrain. And we have hosted several athletes and other, the African athletics competition, we've done that. So we have been hosting. It's one of the states that's known for hosting. And throughout the hosting that we have done, there have not been any incident of insecurity. Everything has been going very well. The stadium is good. It's one of the best in this country.
We'll wait to see how these go, as CAF will be hoping to name a host very soon. And that wraps it up on sports. I am Favor Itua.
Many thanks, Favor. And if you have followed us since 10 a.m., I believe you're up to speed on everything Nigeria tonight. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the big stories. Nigeria echoers have been sued over planned military intervention in Niger. National Security Advisor has said security of schools will get special attention over mass kidnapping. We also brought you news that the House of Representatives has condemned abuse of waivers prior to recruitment exercises by government ministries, departments, and agencies. Would like to hear from you. Please send your reports to the WhatsApp number showing on your screen. You can follow us on social media at NewsCentral TV. You can download our mobile app on the App Store and Play Store, or you could watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, on Arrow TV and YouTube. On behalf of everyone, thank you very much for watching.
It was a cloudy day in Ikoyi, Lagos, Nigeria, as the final game of the Uprise Flag Football League was played. After 6 weeks of action in the regular season, the finalists, the Yellow Trumpets and the Chiefs, battled for the grand prize of 5 million naira in the championship game. The Chiefs emerged victorious against the Yellow Trumpets, winning the game by 40-0 points.
I'm very proud. I'm very proud. They executed the game plan to perfection. Defense, offense, everything went exactly how we planned it. So I give them all the praise. You know, they listened during practice. They understood their assignments.
The Uprise Flag Football League is the brainchild of Nigerian two-time Super Bowl champion Osi Umenyora.
We got to keep doing more investment in the sport, let people know exactly how many opportunities this game gives people. And you know, the more people play, the more they see what's going on, the more we have events like this and leagues like this, obviously it's going to continue to grow.
Bimbo Bankole, manager of the Uprise Football League, expressed satisfaction at the coordination of the championship.
So first of all, this is the end of the first season in 2023. We're obviously going to go into a second season towards the end of the year. And we are very excited to the success of our first season.
The teams look forward to the second season towards the end of the year, hoping to better their performance.
You wake up to a lot of stories about Africa.
But this is where you get the story straight. Where we explore different angles because we understand our stories.
There's that passion when it's your perspective and not a distant perception.
I know you hear it a lot, but it's true. Nobody can tell your story better than you.
That's what we do.
All day, every day
on NewsCentral TV.
Our African stories by Africans for Africans.
welcome to the conversation in News Central Television. I am Benga Borowa. We apologize for starting slightly behind schedule. On the show today, we will be looking at the electoral atmosphere in Zimbabwe as Nelson Chamisa has expressed worries over the ruling party violation of the law and tearing apart independent institutions to cling to power. Also, we will look at updates on the coup in Niger as ECOWAS believes that diplomacy remains the best way to tackle the crisis, ruling out the possibility of a military intervention. But first, we begin in Zimbabwe, where main opposition leader Nelson Chamisa accused President Emerson Mnangagwa of disregarding the law and dismantling independent institutions to maintain its grip on power. Chamisa, who will challenge Mnangagwa in the upcoming elections, expressed concern over potential tampering by the ruling party and the ensuing consequences for a nation already grappling with economic turmoil and international sanctions. He asserted that widespread intimidation, manipulation of institutions, and violence were the undermining the democratic process and driving the country towards instability. Now, joining me this evening for this discussion, I have Tawanda Mutungama, political activist, who joins us live from Harare in Zimbabwe. A warm welcome to you, Tawanda, and thanks for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you, Benga.
Now, Tawanda, with Zimbabwe's main opposition leader, Nelson Chamisa of the CCC, accusing President Mnangagwa of violating the law and manipulating independent institutions, can you provide us with an analysis of the current power struggle and its implications for the upcoming elections in Zimbabwe?
My input will be to say we've had one government for the past 43 years, or one party governing for the last 43 years. And considering it has been one government which has been ruling, or one party which has been ruling, if there are changes, it will be a tectonic shift from one party to the other. And a tectonic shift is not expected to be an easy shift. And power is not just handed from one person to the other just smoothly. It can be very difficult. And the change can be a big change. So to expect that it will be like a warm knife going through butter is expecting much. And also, considering 43 years is almost half a century, it's there are things that have been entrenched in the nation, and there are institutions which have roots which have gone down in the nation. So changes cannot be expected to be so easy. So for the opposition to expect an easy run, we'll be expecting quite a lot. So I think, yes, it is expected that it can be a difficult run, and they would need to work hard if any change is to happen.
I mean, but when you talk, yeah, thank you, Tawanda, for that introduction. ZANU-PF has been there for 43 years, and change is never easy to come by. But talking about working hard, in his recent interview, Nelson Chamisa highlighted the role of institutions like the police and the courts in suppressing opposition voices. There's something called lawfare. Can you delve deeper into how these institutions have been used to consolidate power and what this means for the democratic process in Zimbabwe? Because I believe state institutions are not necessarily ZANU-PF or CCC. They should work for all Zimbabweans, regardless of political affiliation.
You're very right, Benga, to say that state institutions should work for the people or for the citizens of a nation. However, if for half a century one party has been governing and high-level positions normally are appointed roles, it would be expecting or asking for too much to think that people who have worked together for half a century would let each other would not support each other, because people have built relationships, people have have vested interests and investments. So and people know each other. So with that, it makes it very difficult for positions which come as appointments or which are rewarded not necessarily because of excellence in the work, but which are rewarded for loyalty and for supporting certain individuals. So in that, it makes it difficult for total independence in either the judiciary or any other of the other state institutions. So what is happening is actually probably a shift from one generation to the other, which is a natural thing which happens in life. Even in families, it comes a time when the elders will have to hand over to the younger generation. And if we are to look half a century ago, which is like the 43 years ago, the country, like to make coffee, probably you could not have instant coffee. And to write a letter, you'd need to send a message, need to write a letter, go to the post office,
Snail mail.
and then probably 2 weeks later, a message is received. But today we have WhatsApp, we've got Twitter. So things have totally changed, and the generations have changed. Everyone has got a cell phone, everyone has internet access. So it's inevitable that the country is shifting. But whether it's shifting within the ruling party or it will shift to the opposition, the shift from one generation to the other is happening, and I expect it is happening now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawanda. I'd like to bring in our second guest in this panel discussing elections in Zimbabwe, Tapi Wanashe Chiriga, Advocacy Officer, Heal Zimbabwe Trust. He also joins from the Zimbabwean capital, Harare. Tapi Wanashe, a warm welcome to you and thanks for joining us on the program. Can you kindly unmute your device, please? Yes, Tapi Wanashe.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me, and good evening.
Good evening to you. Now, Tapi Wanashe, the claim of widespread intimidation against the opposition party, the Triple C, has raised concerns about the fairness of the upcoming elections in Zimbabwe, particularly in rural areas. Could you elaborate more on the dynamics at play and the potential impact of such intimidation on voter turnout and the overall electoral landscape in Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much. I hope I am very much audible. In Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF, the ruling party, has abused for a long time the security sector, number one, and number two, it has also abused traditional leaders in as far as ensuring that they win elections through the harvest of fear, what some scholars in Zimbabwe have called the margin of terror and the margin of error, which is through rigging, of course. Right now, as we approach the 2023 harmonized elections on 23 August 2023, you can tell through our...
Okay, Tapi Wanashe, we seem to have lost audio connection with you. I would like to bring back Tawanda into the conversation. Now, Tawanda, the Triple C leader, Nelson Chamisa's assertion that President Mnangagwa is driving Zimbabwe into chaos and instability is quite a strong statement to make. Could you provide a nuanced assessment of the current state of stability in Zimbabwe, taking into account recent events and historical context? Hello, Tawanda, can you hear me? Okay. Tawanda, do we have, can you confirm if I have your audio connection? Okay, you're watching the conversation on NewsCentral television, and we've been discussing the political environment in Zimbabwe as we inch towards the general elections happening later this month. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the conversation in News Central Television. And we're currently discussing the political atmosphere in Zimbabwe, where the opposition Triple C party is accusing President Mnangagwa and the ZANU-PF of intimidation. And I still have here with me Tapi Wanashe and Tawanda Mutungama, political activist. Now, Tawanda, as we wrap up this conversation, Triple C's Nelson Chamisa calls for President Emerson Mnangagwa to address the concerns raised by the opposition and international human rights groups. He echoes a plea for a more inclusive and peaceful political environment. How likely is it that such calls will be heeded, and what consequences could arise if they are ignored?
From my perspective, I would say these calls would be heeded for, because it's important to have a credible election. Because once it's credible, it means the next 5 years where the president will be governing, or whoever becomes president is governing, will become credible and respectable. Because and by being credible as a leader, you gain a lot of power. You can make difficult decisions if you are credible and you have evidence of being elected by people who love you, who are many, and also your opponents are supporting the process and are accepting the results. So it is in the interest of the Zimbabwean government to answer to the calls which are being made on reforms or on things that are required to give credibility. Because by so doing, the government will become so powerful, it can get loans, it can get sanctions removed, it can get investors come into the country, invest in the country and create jobs. It can create a market economy which allows those who are achieving to be free to choose who they want to be and to be free to choose what they want to be and be free to prosper. So it is in the interest of the government to allow credibility in these elections. So it's likely that the calls will be heeded true. And evidence that the calls will be heeded true is, for example, the 12 candidates from Bulawayo who were about to be removed from the ballot, but were finally reinstated on the ballot. So there is interest that the calls by the opposition will be heeded to give credibility to the election. Thank you.
Yes, Tawanda, still talking about the upcoming elections in Zimbabwe, the European Union and the African Union will be monitoring the elections. They're going to send observer missions to Zimbabwe. There are concerns about their ability to cover all regions effectively. Tawanda, could you elaborate on the significance of having international observers to observe the proceedings of the elections, and also the potential limitation they might face during this monitoring process?
So if the observers are given free access to everything which pertains to the election, again, the observers can vouch for the election to say, you know, this election was free and fair. And once they say that, the presidency becomes so important, so powerful. And when they are negotiating with the European Union, or they are negotiating with the American government to have a review of the sanctions, it becomes so easy, like a butter, like a knife through butter, because they've been elected by the people. And this is the essence of democracy. So democracy is government of the people, and it's allowing the people to choose who governs them. And once that is done, it allows for even difficult decisions to be done. Like, for example, if economically we need to do austerity measures, if the people have chosen you and are supporting you, and the rest of the world knows that you are the legitimate representative of a country, you have support in the country and outside the country. So I believe the current government will ensure that observers will have free reign.
Hello, Tawanda, are you there? Okay, we seem to have lost audio connection with Tawanda. I believe this is where we've come to the end of this segment of the conversation we've been discussing the upcoming elections in Zimbabwe, and also the opposition saying that accusing the ruling party of intimidation and not creating a free and fair atmosphere for the elections to take place. I'd like to say thank you to our distinguished guest, Tawanda Mutunga, political activist, joins us live from Harare, Zimbabwe, and also Tapiwanashe Chiriga, advocacy officer, Hill Zimbabwe Trust, also joining from the Zimbabwean capital, Harare. This is the conversation in News Central. When we return to the conversation after this quick break, Niger coup, I beg your pardon, Nigeria not ruling out force ahead of summit tomorrow. So we'll discuss this and more. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the conversation. Moving on now, neighboring countries of coup-hit Niger, including Nigeria, have not ruled out the possibility of a military intervention, according to Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. However, Nigeria's president, who also has the ECOWAS bloc, believes that diplomacy remains a preferred approach to resolving the crisis. The military rulers, who defied a deadline to reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum, have shown resistance to negotiations and instead held a rally in the capital, Niamey. The region, grappling with a series of coups fueled by jihadist insurgencies, faces the risk of destabilization with potential humanitarian and security consequences. Now, joining me this evening on the program is Makdi Shehu, Chairman Dialogue Group, who is also a human rights activist. Mr. Shehu, it's a pleasure to have you join us on the program this evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening to you. The recent coup in Niger has undoubtedly sent shockwaves through the region. Could you provide us with an analysis of how this crisis has affected the overall stability of West Africa and its neighbors and its neighboring countries?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. And let me begin by saying that there are certain indices, certain parameters, a yardstick, if you like, a situation where coup becomes just a matter of time and it becomes inevitable. Where people have no food to eat, no shelter over their heads, with 70% unemployment rate, with a per capita of 15 billion naira, no water, no sanitation, education ground zero, health ground zero. Yet they are being extorted by a foreign power, taking away all their resources. Once their life expectancy, yes, is below the standard acceptable, it means people are going to be frustrated, they will be angry, they are hungry, they will be pushed to a wall. And if you are pushed to a wall you cannot climb, the only option for you is to fall back. Major people fall back because they have been pushed to a wall. You cannot push people to a wall and expect them to continue hanging to the wall. That is what made coup matured in Niger Republic. Secondly, when foreign powers such as France refuse to liberate Niger from hunger, starvation, disease, decay, ignorance, lack of sanitation, they are only postponing the D-Day.
But Mahdi, people will tell you that Niger Republic is an independent country of France. They got their independence so many years ago. So how is it France's responsibility to liberate Niger?
They are only independent in code. Their reserve is in the French currency. Their budget is being determined by French currency. Their capital projects determined by French. Every other zone of Niger is France except the name Niger. Nothing independent about Niger. Maybe you have not been there. If you have ever visited Niger, you will come back with pains of man's inhumanity to man. With the deposit of uranium they have no reason to be in penury, but they are currently the second poorest country in the world. The second, the most traumatized country in the world. The most backward country in the world. The most dispossessed country in the world. And the most pauperized country in the world. Under this situation, anything can happen. Before the coup in Niger, everybody was on his own. God for them all, survival of the fittest, and the dead.
Now, thank you very much, Mr. Shehu, for giving us that background. Now, let's look at the recent events that have played out in the last 1 week. The ECOWAS issued an ultimatum for the military junta to restore power back to Mohamed Bazoum. The deadline expired under the threat of military intervention, and there was no military intervention. Our president, Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who chairs ECOWAS, seems to be advocating for diplomacy. That was the advice the National Assembly gave him. But he's not entirely ruling out the use of force. Now, can you delve deeper into the delicate balancing act he's attempting to strike between the approaches and the potential implications of his strategy? Because others will be watching. Look, this is a dangerous move here. There might be a contagion effect of this coup. If you don't act on the junta in Niger, you might be enabling or sending a message that ECOWAS is weak and they can only sanction or issue threats on paper, but will never carry out this military intervention. What's your take on this, sir? Hello, Magdi Shehu, are you there? Okay, we seem to have some connection issues with our guest. We hope to have him back soon. We've been discussing the Economic Community of West African States decision not to rule out force ahead of this summit tomorrow. The ECOWAS heads of states will be meeting in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, to discuss the latest developments with regards to the coup in Niger. What we know so far is that yesterday, the Undersecretary of State, Patricia Newland, was in Niger. She met with some junior officers, and the government in Niger still appears to be defiant. They rejected a delegation that was sent by ECOWAS to negotiate with the head of the junta, saying, look, we cannot guarantee your safety because you've issued sanctions, very strong sanctions against our country, so we can't guarantee your safety if you are in Nigerian territory. And that was the message they gave them. The ECOWAS delegation could not visit Niger. We also know that the military juntas in Mali and Burkina Faso have pledged some sort of allegiance to the government in Niger, saying an attack on Niger will be an attack on them. And on Sunday, there was a massive show of support in the stadium in the capital, Niamey. Thousands of Nigerians trooped in to show support for the military junta in Niamey. So it's getting more interesting, it's getting more delicate, and we will try to see what the deliberation is in Abuja tomorrow between the ECOWAS heads of state to know what step will be taken next. We do know that Nigeria's president just yesterday issued a second round of financial sanctions against the regime. Those who supported the regime and, of course, the hierarchy, the head of the junta and those involved in undermining democracy in Niger. So this is the conversation in NewsCentral Television. We'll try to re-establish connection with our guest, and when we return, we'll continue our conversation. Do stay with us. Yeah, welcome back to the conversation in NewsCentral Television, and we've been discussing the latest development with regards to the coup in Niger Republic. The Nigerian president, who is also the chair of ECOWAS, seems to be advocating for diplomacy while not ruling out the use of force. Before we went to that break, we still have Mahdi Shehu, Chairman Dialogue Group, joining us for this important conversation. Now, Mr. Shehu, President Bazoum, despite being democratically elected, has been detained since July the 26th. How does his absence affect this crisis, and what insights could you provide into his potential role in navigating through this turbulent times? ECOWAS is saying, you know, this military option is not off the table. The United States has called for his release. What step do you anticipate ECOWAS might take? And the junta seems to be digging in, and it seems there's no going back for them. So how do we get out of this conundrum?
Well, already ECOWAS is at war with Niger Republic. Complete war is taking place currently in Niger Republic. Lights cut off, land border, airspace, sea closed down. They have stopped every import into Niger Republic. Not only that, some moment ago, just today, Bola Tinubu said that all companies and individuals currently doing business in Niger Republic, they will be blocked. Their transactions will be blocked by CBN. Extreme determining factor in the energy being consumed by Europe. They determine the consumption. More than 80% of the energy requirement of Europe is determined by Russia. And that is giving Russia and America and France sleepless nights. That was why America and Chevron funded a pipeline laying that will pass through Niger to the entire Europe, costing $13 billion. If this $13 billion...
I really, sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Mahdi Shehu. I really wish you could go on, but we've fast run out of time. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and look forward to engaging further on this discussion in the nearest future. Thanks for your time and insight.
Thank you.
This is where we wrap up the conversation today. The first half of the program, we did look at the political situation in Zimbabwe. We just concluded our conversation on the recent coup in Niger with the chairman of ECOWAS, Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, not ruling out a military option on the table. Thank you very much for being a part of the conversation. I'm Benga Abura. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter.
or sign, every sign that maybe a doctor elicits when examining a patient, or for every symptom, there usually could be a couple of causes, right? And that's why we have what we call differential diagnosis. When we see, maybe if I see someone in a tropical region and the person presents with maybe a fever, headache, and this, then I come up with differentials. Okay, this could be malaria. If it's not malaria, this could be maybe something, maybe like a subclinical form of another enteric illness, or if it's not this, it could be this, it could be this. But a lot of, and this is one way to recognize people who maybe you should not listen to. They without seeing you or maybe examining you or running tests, they just say, okay, you have this symptom, this is what it is. When you see someone that talks like that, then personally I usually have very little respect for that person, and it makes me doubt the person's qualification. And there are so many people like that out there. In order to make a diagnosis, several steps have to be followed, and those steps are put in for your safety and my safety as well.
Many would wonder if the advent of social media is a blessing or a curse. It would therefore be laudable if effective checks and balances are adopted in its usage and adoption by the consuming public.
A panel comprised of seasoned experts on climate change drawn from across the world. The panel expected to review recommendations from 58 different sections from subsidiary bodies of the United Nations Framework on Climate Change.
There can be no healthy planet without a healthy ocean.
Stakeholders here commend Nigeria's government for coming up with a legal framework and a supervisory agency overseeing activities of agencies working around the thematic area of climate change in the country.
We'll be talking about issues around climate finance, loss and damage, carbon markets, and a just transition. These priorities are shared priorities for climate vulnerable countries around the world with a development and with a sustainable growth focus.
Council for Climate Change really to leading this agenda and really organizing this stakeholder platform.
They say there is a need to come up with actionable steps aimed at mitigating the effects of climate change in the light of its toll on citizens in the country.
We are all living witnesses also to the ravaging flood of last year, 2022. The World Bank's Global Rapid Post-Disaster Damage Estimation assessment put the total direct economic damage to infrastructure at about $7 billion. This is equivalent to 1.6% of Nigeria's estimated 2021 GDP.
The challenges or the problems that come from climate change, they are borderless. When they start here, they get to the other point. It's to make access to electricity highly improved and to also reduce the amount of emissions from the many millions of small generating sets that are using both petrol and diesel. We are promoting the use of gas.
Marvelous Obomanu reporting for NewsCentral.
It's a new dawn for students in the city of Zuwara, a Libyan community near the border with Tunisia. These students are here not to learn from the regular curriculum, but to learn a language that has survived despite centuries of Arab domination and is now undergoing a revival in Libya since Muammar Gaddafi's 4-decade rule ended in the 2011 revolution.
الأجيال الصغيرة مثلا اللي توا كيف يعني استالدوا في وقت الثورة ما شافوش اللي قبل ما عندهمش الحب الفضول هذا أصلا مش كلهم يعرفوا أن قبل كانت ممنوعة فالحاجة هذه على أساس أنها حاجة حق طبيعي مستحيل أن أي بني آدم يجي يقول لك لا ممنوع مثلا تتكلم كلامك فما يحسبوش أنها هي كانت ممنوعة.
The Berber language, also called Tamazight, has been the native language of indigenous people across North Africa since pre-Roman times. Tamazight is the broad term for any Amazigh language. It consists of some 40 languages and their local dialects. Together, these form a branch of the overarching Afro-Asiatic language family. In Libya, around 10% of its over 7 million population are ethnically Berber, and the language is an integral part of their culture.
اللغة الأمازيغية مش حروف وكلمات بس عبارة عن مجموعة ثقافات ومجموعة حاجات يعني هوية نوري.
زوارة ناسها أمازيغ يتحدثوا باللغة الأمازيغية، فالوسيلة الأقرب للوصول إلى المواطنين لإيصال المعلومات والرسائل والإعلانات وكل التوضيحات فهي أقرب وأسهل بلغتهم اللي احنا نتكلموا بها في المنزل في الشارع في المؤسسات، فهي اللغة الأقرب والأريح لهم. فبكل تأكيد محتوى الناطق باللغة الأمازيغية.
Some believe that Gaddafi worked to crush the Tamazight language and culture while promoting Arab identity. But Libyans, especially in the remote western mountains, continue to speak their language at home, out of earshot of the feared secret police. For the young people, most of them never knew life under Gaddafi and had no opportunity to learn the language. Asirem Shuwashi, a teacher and resident of Zuwara, has taken it upon herself to teach these young students their mother tongue after it was long banned from school curricula.
صعبة يعني كلغة جديدة حتخش للمدارس صغارنا ما يعرفوهاش كيف حنديروا يعني احنا نتكلموا فيها بالحوش لكن كدراسة كحروف ككتابة بها حاجة صعبة يعني لأن حاجة جديدة خشة للدولة
نحاولوا أن نزرعوا فيهم الروح الأمازيغية الشاملة.
While some residents applaud the reintroduction of the language, others are concerned that the children will be learning multiple things at the same time. Some parents fear the students could be overloaded, arguing that Arabic and English are a higher priority.
والله الخوف كان موجود جدا يعني احنا خلاص لغتنا ونعرفوا نتكلموها لكن مش لازم ندرسوها حاجة جديدة للصغير. الصغير قاعد بيتعلم حاجات جديدة يعني بيتعلم حروف عربية وحروف إنجليزية وحروف أمازيغية يعني عنده 3 لغات للصف الأول وهلبة عليه وهيك بس الصغير أصلا هو جاي للمدرسة بيتعلم ودماغاتهم مفتوحة يعني للعلم.
Shawashi, a teacher and resident of the community, works as a presenter in her spare time. When classes are over, she heads off to the studio of Cassis FM, Libya's first local radio station to broadcast in Tamazight. She is currently working to introduce a show on Amazigh literature.
فواجب علينا ان احنا نحترم انفسنا بحيث وذلك باحترام لغتنا والاعتزاز بهويتنا ونحن نتعايش مع كل الثقافات الاخرى وباقي المجتمعات بحيث ان احنا نمشوا الى الامام دون النظر الى الوراء إلى زمن الاضطهاد أو الإقصاء أو التهميش أو الوحدوية في الثقافة أو في الفكر أو في اللغة أو في غيرها. العالم كله يعيش في بيئات متنوعة ومختلفة ومنسجمة وحتى نحن كليبيين بشكل عام من حقنا أن نعيش في هذا الانسجام ونرتقي ونصل إلى تحقيق طموحاتنا وأهدافنا وأفكارنا.
Although they have not given the language official status, the authorities in Tripoli have been accommodating towards Berber culture, even providing textbooks. For a language that made it through repression and attempts at cultural domination, Tamazight shows that with the will of a people to hold on their cultural identity, there will always be a way. And now the way forward is to share Tamazight and the Amazigh culture with the next generation.
Welcome to Aba, the city that houses the market with the potential of taking care of the entire African continent. I'm talking about the China of Africa.
We have fabrics, we have shoemakers, we have bag makers, we have all types of wares being sold here. Everything, phone, call it, it's an international market.
Ariaria is an open market established in 1976 following a fire outbreak that destroyed the Ekoha market in Aba, a city in Abia State, southeast Nigeria.
Initially, it was made up of about 3 sections of the market. Basically timber, rod, building material, carpentry, and scrap. That was how it came to be. People from Ghana, people from Cameroon, people from Togo, people all over Gabon, they all assembled to market here.
We import, we manufacture. We sell, we produce. Anything building materials, especially the fancy part of it. Multi-slug sets, nails, shovel, wheelbarrow.
What we are doing here is made in Aba, in Nigeria, in Nimba City, Aba. So that is the thing we are producing. And our shoe is very, very quality.
It is a fact that quality products are manufactured here, but it is rare to see made in Aba on these products. We had to ask why.
We call it sample. The reason why we are putting all those things is that if we put our shoe made in Aba, all our customers will complain. You understand? They will say, if they carry the shoe, go to their various places, they are selling the shoe. If customer come to buy the shoe, see made in Aba, then go say that nonsense. You understand? That is the reason why we put on our goods made in Korea or made in Italy or whatever.
We've been in this market for the past 2 hours and we've barely scratched the surface. There is so much to see, so many potentials here. However, there are some challenges.
We will need government to assist us for the machine, because when you look at everything we are working, we're using our hand to do everything. No any machine we can use and work in this industry.
As we speak now, we still need more customers because we are capable of selling and we have stock at all times.
You heard him. So when next you want to shop, however large or small the quantity, head to Ariaria Market. Let's patronize Made in Africa.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here, NewsCentral TV, the stories that put Africa first.
As reporters, we don't just gather news stories, we experience them daily. So join us on Report Desk Africa as we share these experiences and review the top African stories. Only on NewsCentral.
Welcome to NC Exclusive here on News Central Television. My guest today is from the eastern part of the continent. Born in May 1982, he is a politician, currently the Senator of Nairobi County and the Secretary General of ODM, which stands for Orange Democratic Movement Party, all the way from Kenya. Thank you so much for joining me, Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna.
Thanks for having me.
Great, great. Before we delve into the topical issues, let me ask first off, at what age did you veer into politics?
Oh, well, I first ran in 2017 elections, so I was about 35 years then.
25?
35.
35, I see. Okay, not a bad one, not a bad age to begin being a politician, but we'll come back to that discussion. Let's now go straight to the major issue that's indeed making the rounds in your country, Kenya. Now, Mr. Sifuna, your country is actually going through a state of unrest through mass demonstrations introduced by your party, ODM. Now, what are the agitations? What are people really asking for?
Well, first, let me correct you there. It is not ODM that instigated the current mass action. It was instigated by the Azimio la Umoja coalition, which is a coalition that incorporates almost 26 political parties in Kenya, and yes, ODM is one of them. We have had various engagements across the country with the people. We had set out a few issues that we thought that the current regime would be able to address. First of all, after the election, it emerged through a whistleblower's account that, in fact, William Ruto did not win the elections of 2022. And therefore, one of the key agitations was that now that we have this new information that was not available to us at the point of the declaration of the results of the presidential election, or in fact, the point of going against the presidential we to open so we can see if truly William Ruto was evidence of secondly, we have that subsidies on food and had been in place by the previous regime, so that at least Kenyans don't feel the pinch that the world is going to. They took away those subsidies in price the price of food are very high. To increase the size of the by almost they remove the and it affects everything because we transport so that while wait for programs, the new regime has to living goes down today. And because of the decision they have managed to masculate parliament so that they are passing very in the country, especially on the so those are election Secondly, that the IBC that also the current
for clarifying that explanation, especially looking at the fact that the movement is indeed carried out by Raila Odinga and the coalition. But it is also mentioned that Mr. Raila Odinga, who has led day 3 of the anti-government protest, is seeking to have a share in the running of the economic affairs of the present government amidst claims of failed electoral process that saw Mr. William Ruto become the president, just as you've mentioned. But how true is this? That it's just more than fighting for the people. It's also about Mr. Raila Odinga too.
Of course, that is the narrative of the regime. Raila Odinga is not interested in sharing part of his government. In fact, we have told Mr. William Ruto that all he needs to do is to keep his promise during the campaigns to bring the cost of unga, which is basically is a staple in Kenya, to below 100 shillings, and that will be the end of the matter. If we are talking about having a conversation on a bipartisan effort to put together the next electoral commission, that cannot be translated to wanting a share in government. Now, if he did all these 3 things, that in fact, if he was confident that he won the election, then we should have some as transmitted the results open in a bipartisan manner, and we can have whoever it is, oversight the process of opening those servers, and everybody will be content. If indeed he won the election, it is there in the server. Our position is that based on the evidence that came out of the whistleblower's report, there is something in that server that will demonstrate that in fact William Ruto did not win the election. So it is not about Raila Odinga getting into government. He is not interested in a handshake. All Ruto has to do is to call a press conference today and say, yes, I am returning the subsidies, and the price of maize meal is going to fall below 100 Kenyan shillings, and say, okay, we cannot ignore half of the country. Let us have a bipartisan effort to put together the new electoral commission for the 2027 election, and that will be the end of the matter. We are not interested in anything more than those 3 items that I have spelled out.
But the Azimiola Umoja's consistency in ensuring that this protest continues, and looking at the coalition of parties that are actually under these demonstrations, are you all sharing the same view, or are there differences? Because we've seen where protesters are starting to veer off and engage in other acts, especially while going out to protest. Is there any worry that within this coalition there seems to be a divide, or will there be a divide in between?
No, there is no division within the coalition. I think the decision to call for mass protest, because it was processed through the coalition's instruments, and it wasn't the first port of call, because you remember we have had engagements in the counties, in the constituencies. We had almost 20 meetings in the counties from coast to coast, and all those meetings were very peaceful. And we gave a 14-day ultimatum to the current regime to address those 3 issues that I've spoken to you about. They chose to ignore or did nothing about it, and that is when we call for mass protests. And the only thing that is making this mass protests violent is police action. I am sure you have seen the videos from yesterday's peaceful procession that in fact proceeded for 2 hours very peacefully without encountering the police, and we were speaking with the people. And immediately we met with the police at a police station called Kware in the Makati South constituency here in Nairobi. We met with police violence. And what I want to say is that our protesters understand that our beef is not with anybody's private property. Our beef is not with anybody's family. Our beef is not with anybody's family holdings. Our beef is with the current regime. And that therefore we need to ensure that we are within the protection of Article 37 of our Constitution that requires us to proceed only when we are unarmed and we are peaceable, so that we enjoy that protection. The people causing violence in these processions are actually the police. And as a lawyer, I understand that any person who would invade somebody's private business or somebody's private farm is actually acting outside the realm of the protection of Article 37 of our Constitution, and that person is not a protester, that person is a criminal. We want to very strongly object to the negative comparison of the things that we are doing and the things that happened last week, where people invaded people's private farms, cutting away animals. That is not a peaceful protester. That is a criminal, and it is the responsibility of the police. It is not the responsibility of Azimio la Umoja as a coalition to deal with criminal elements who decide that they are going to invade somebody's private farm. So for us, we are very clear that our protests are peaceful, and in fact, the one thing that is making violence break out in these processions is the presence and the actions and inactions of the police.
Well, talking about being peaceful, we've started to see that the protest is starting to equally become less peaceful, leading to deaths. There have also been attacks on journalists, by the way, and the police as well are saying that there are reprisal attacks because the protesters are equally coming to attack them as well. So there is a counterclaim in line with what you've also said. We've also seen an attack on a former president's farmhouse as well, where we saw fire and everything. Now, do you think that these protests will eventually come to a halt, will eventually stop when your demands, including the opening of the server, is met? Or are you not worried that it could spiral out of control, leading to something else?
First of all, it is a false narrative being peddled by the current regime that we attack the police. Police in Kenya are stationed at police stations and the barracks. If we wanted to attack them, we know where those barracks are, we know where those police stations are. But it is them who are meeting us in the streets. Like yesterday, they blocked our path out of Embakasi South constituency because we were going to go into another constituency, Embakasi East constituency, to address our supporters there. They are the ones who blocked our path with the water tanks and the tear gas, and they were shooting live rounds, including those attacks directed at members of the media. And the attacks on members of the media are very deliberate because the regime is very unhappy with the fact that many of the media houses in Kenya have decided to provide live coverage to what is happening. As a protester myself and as a leader of the Azimio coalition, I am only safe because of the presence of the media, because they would like a situation where their actions are not revealed to the public. Like yesterday, the regime has been absolutely embarrassed by the emergence of the video of police officers shooting tear gas canisters into people's vehicles, directly into private people's vehicles. And the injuries that have been sustained by the journalists, all of them, none of them is from actions of the protesters. All of them are from actions of the police and security forces. So we believe that for as long as we have this constitutional right, and in fact we have invited the regime, that if they have a problem with Article 37 of the Constitution, they need to bring an amendment to the Constitution to do it, to do away with it in Parliament. But for as long as that right exists, my brother, we were going to continue to exercise it until our demands are met, and our demands are very simple. In fact, I have said, if today Ruto stood up and said, yes, he's returning the subsidies and that the price of the maize meal is going to be 70 shillings like he promised during the campaigns, there will be nothing to protest over. If he says that, yes, we're going to have a bipartisan approach in constitution of the new IEBC, there will be nothing to protest over. If he can open the server, because if he's confident that he won the election, really there is nothing wrong with opening the server, and we will all audit the server, because it is a requirement of our law, our constitution in this country, that every single tool or method of election should be subject to public audit, and we don't understand why we cannot be able to access this particular server.
Anyway, there are questions as well concerning the funding of these rallies. And aren't you afraid that Kenya's economy could deepen, leaving Kenya or Kenyans in dire straits more than what they are going through?
Well, first, it is another regime lie that somehow the former president Uhuru Kenyatta is the one financing the current demos. As the senator of Nairobi, I can assure you, you do not need to fund any demonstrations in Nairobi, because we have a very big unemployed population in Nairobi. All you need to do is to drive out with your car and people will follow you, because they are happy that you are actually putting their causes on the table, that we need to create an economy that can actually create employment. What we are seeing the regime do is to create employment for their friends and their cronies and their tribesmen to the exclusion of everybody else. We don't need money for a rally. All I need is a sound system. And you can see they are attacking our sound system, dousing it in water. Now I have to source for a new sound system for Monday because the one that we were using was doused with water and short circuited. But for us, really, we want to say that we will continue with these protests and they will continue to be peaceful if and only if you take away the illegal action of the police. This protest will remain peaceful.
Thank you so much, Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna, for giving us this exclusive opportunity to speak with you in line with the current protests ongoing in Kenya. Thank you so much.
Having me, and I know you also have your own issues. Having me, and I know you also have your own issues after the elections. But I think across Africa, we must accept that the public and the people have the freedom to be able to express themselves, to be able to protest, and we shouldn't have regimes in Africa that deny people that opportunity. I am so proud of our brothers down in South Africa that it is the police who actually, lead the processions and ensure that everybody's property and business is protected. But we are seeing, an overreach of police power in places like Kenya, and of course, even in your own situation. And we just want to wish you all the best with your own situation in Nigeria.
Thank you for wishing us the best, as we wish you the best as well. Thank you so much for talking to us once again.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so there we've had it, NC exclusive, and we've spoken to Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna, who is the Secretary General for the ODM party. As you know, and as you've heard, the Azimio Moja, the umbrella that actually is being led by Odinga himself, has actually made sure that the protest continues. But will they get their answers? Well, we'll leave that to the coming days. Thank you so much for watching NC Exclusive. I am